I finished this look off camera, and I'm gonna go ahead and recap everything really quickly because I forget where I was when I stopped, and I had to stop filming because my phone shut off and died. So while it was recharging, I finished the look, and now I'm gonna recap everything for you guys. So I started off using this shade all over the lid as my, like a bone color. And then I started out with the M441, and I went into this shade right here, which is Orange Soda, and I used this as my first transition shade. I took that slightly above this crease bone and slightly below, so I kind of covered like the major 2/3 of the lid basically. And then I switched brushes. Actually, what I did, I stepped back. I applied this 3 different times. I did 3 applications because I started the first application really light so you could barely see it, and then I built up the color, so I ended up doing 3 applications just to build up the color, because I have gone in way too heavy-handed more times than I can count on that first transition shade, and it just becomes impossible to fix. So start out light, and you can always build the intensity of the color. Then I switched brushes. I went in with the M433, and I went into this shade right here, which is Burnt Orange. And I picked up a little bit of this and a tiny bit of this. I wasn't quite ready to introduce a deeper shade yet because I wanted to stick with, I like a gradient ombre effect. So I did the 2 colors mixed together. And I took those on the M433, tapped off the excess, and I started on the outer corner, and I started working that inner, and I started those 2 colors right below that first shade that I put in. Then I cleaned off this brush, this M433, and I stayed using this brush, and then I went in, I applied a little bit of sienna by itself, and I took it a little bit deeper this time into the socket of the crease. I just like went in there and got in that eyeball socket and just kind of buffed that in there. And I started the same way I do all of my shades. I start with a round circular motion until it gets really kind of buffed in, and then I switch to windshield wiper. So that's what I did on that shade. And then to smoke out the outer V, I know that I used a pencil brush, and I used the M507, which I've already put away. But here's my pencil brush. Yeah, so I used a combination of the 507 and this pencil brush. And I picked up the color. This is very deep, this mulberry shade. And I just patted it on the brush, on the outer edges of the brush. And I just patted it on the outer corners, the outer V. I placed that right, and I kept it really low. I kept the shade very low in the outer V, and then I tapped that in there, and then I went in with a large fluffy brush again. I can't remember if I used, this is the E22. I can't remember if I used that or this 441, but I cleaned it off, and I picked up a little bit of the initial shades that I had been working with, which were these 2. And I just picked this up just very slightly, and I went on the top of this edge where I had patted in the color. I just went over the top, and I just buffed that slowly out so that I could get that smoked out corner V, kind of that little cat eye-ish, without taking that actual color. Because once this color was packed on, it was a very deep and very dark, and I didn't want to just blow that out all over the place. So I just smoked it out using a lighter shade on top of it and smoked that out. So that's basically all I did, and I pretty much wanted to stop here because I felt like it was a pretty natural everyday look, and that was what I was going for. And oh, and for the lid, sorry, I forgot to say, for the lid I used this little flat round brush. I think this is a 210. Yeah, so I just used the M210. I spritzed it with my MAC Fix Plus, this stuff right here. I just spritzed it, and I picked up a little bit of, I didn't use a whole lot. I think I did, this is bronze. I think I did a little bit of bronze and this fairy because I didn't want it to be too goldeny. And I just patted this onto the lid, and And then I brought in some of the deeper colors in because I didn't want to do the entire lid glitter. I just kind of wanted to keep it like in the front half. So I brought that color over a little bit. And on my brow bone, I think I used a mixture of this and this. And this is kind of a shimmery, glittery shade, this one here called Glistening. And I think I just took the very, very tips of that and I just placed it directly right underneath the brow bone. And then working kind of in reverse, I took a little bit of this and I placed that on the brow bone. And then I went back in. I just wanted to make sure that everything was cleaned up and blending. And a lot of times I will just take a bare clean blending brush for this. But in this case, I just picked up a little bit of that orange soda, which was the very first transition shade that I used. And I went over the edges on the top with that. And then these two were a combination of the second shade that I picked up. So I picked up mostly this shade, but just a tiny bit of this, and put that directly underneath that. And then once I did that on both sides, then I took a clean blending brush and I just went in and just buffed and blended. Because even after it's all said and done, no matter how much blending you've done to get everything perfect, you still want to go over everything with a clean blending brush as a kind of final step to kind of make sure that everything is perfect. So that's what I did, and that's how I created this look today. So thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you on the next video. And I think my phone's about to die. Ah!